What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with Astro DFS, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video going over Week 3 running backs to target on the main slate. So, going over some of these running backs, and I feel like we have a wide margin of player pool for this week. Starting at the top, Alvin Kamara against Philly. This one's a good one. Alvin Kamara just had the 4-touchdown performance against Dallas. Philly the last 2 weeks has been beaten by Josh Jacobs, Bijan Robinson. Now they get another top running back verse match. So going Alvin Kamara in this matchup, I think is a good one. Jonathan Taylor against Chicago, to where you've seen week 1, Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears had a really good week. The mix of Houston running backs, injuries happen, so it's really hard to evaluate that game 100%, but I'm not really leaning Jonathan Taylor as much. Just you get Kyron Williams $200 cheaper against San Francisco, where both teams are very banged up. Puka and Cooper Kupp both out, so Kyron Williams probably going to go back to that 7 targets, 20 rushing attempts, all the red zone work. Gonna go through Kyron again in this matchup. His 2 games so far, 14 and 15. So the floor has been pretty safe so far. Obviously, you're paying up 7,100. So you're gonna have to find a way to manage that if you are putting them in. Devon Achane is worth mentioning if Raheem Mostert is out. We've seen in the past when Tua has been out, Miami likes to rely upon the running back quite a bit. So Devon Achane is playable if Mostert is out. If Mostert's in, he's still a good tournament play, but for cash, I don't know if I want to get there. We keep going down quite a bit, actually. So James Conner against Detroit, no. Looking at it, Arizona relies upon James Conner for a lot, but Detroit is currently the best defense against running backs. Not even from, you can look at the DraftKings points, but just from a stat point, there's nothing good coming at running backs against them. Derrick Henry, yeah, you could target Derrick Henry for what Dallas just got destroyed in from Alvin Kamara. I don't know if I want to get there, especially when you have someone like Jordan Mason at 6,200, who I think is yet again another great cash play. We mentioned the injuries on the Rams, but on San Francisco's side, we already know CMC's out. That's why Mason is a play. Deebo Samuel likely out. George Kittle just came up on the injury report as it did not participate. So San Fran could be down 3 of their top 4 guys, which is worrisome. But Jordan Mason, 6,200, I definitely think is probably yet again another top cash option in this matchup. And then Zach Charbonnet, 6K against Miami. Miami's been pretty poor against running back so far this season. You see last week for Charbonnet, 17.9 points. Right, only 14 for 38, so pretty bad on the ground, but does get in the end zone. Gets 5 receptions for 31 yards, so gets you 8 points there. So you got 14 points that weren't on the ground. Now, Kenneth Walker would have to be out for Zach Charbonnet to be a play, which it looks like he will be. So against Miami, to where we mentioned Tua's out, so you got Skylar Thompson as a quarterback. This could be an ugly game, meaning the running backs get quite a bit of work. So I like that one. And then Tony Pollard against Green Bay. We've known how bad Green Bay is against the run, but the reason Tony Pollard at 6K is with Zach Charbonnet, right? I think it's a coin flip if you wanted to play either one this week. Is Tajay Spears is questionable going into the week, so could see Tony Pollard get a little more work than usual. But you've seen Tony Pollard so far this season, 15.2, 18.4. So Tony Pollard definitely playable, right? 33 carries in two games, which is nice. And the receptions, 10 targets in 2 games, so averaging 5 targets a game there as well. Keep going down. Jerome Ford, this one with Pierre Strong being out, we kind of saw Deontay Foreman get quite a bit of work, but Cleveland they took a big lead, and I think they wanted to rest Ford and, could do this game as well. You're playing the Giants. I still believe Giants have a very good defensive line, but you see them 7 for 64, only 2 targets, really doesn't pay off, 7.4 in that one. But you see against a team like Dallas, gets 7 targets, 44 carries. I think Jerome Ford is definitely playable, but kind of going ugly here and saying DeAndre Swift 5,600 against the Colts. Now, it has to be a tournament play. It could be a cash play if you want to take that risk, because DeAndre Swift so far through 2 games has gotten only 24 carries, but he got 5 targets last week. Granted, Houston blitzed a lot, so there was quite a bit of checkdowns. But playing a Colts team that's allowed over 200 rushing yards a game, essentially, and they just lost to Forrest Buckner. So, yes, Chicago running backs against Indy this week, I think, are very playable if you want to get there in cash and go cheaper than Jordan Mason, go cheaper than Zach Charbonnet, Tony Pollard, even Jerome Ford. I'm okay with that, right? Getting a little bit of leverage. So, DeAndre Swift. You get a combination of Alexander Mattison and Zamir White against Carolina. If you want to flip a coin and play either one, go for it. I personally am going to stay away, though. Chuba Hubbard, 5,200. This is another guy worth mentioning, to where you're playing a Vegas team who's been pretty beat by the running back so far this season. Now, granted, Chuba Hubbard's only gotten 16 carries in 2 games, but last week against Chargers, where you're not down as much as you were against New Orleans, 10 for 64, gets 5 targets, 4 receptions for 12 yards, 11 fantasy points. So for the price point of 5,200, I definitely think it's worth mentioning. Bucky Irving at 5,100. I am mentioning Bucky Irving only if Rashard White is out. I still think Bucky Irving by the end of the season is going to be their guy. I think it's going to be Sean Tucker and Bucky Irving. I don't think Rashard White's all that. He was just a volume running back who paid off a couple weeks for me last season, but this season I just don't think he is all that. And then the other guy we're going to mention is 4,700 Cam Akers, right? We just saw Mason rush for 100 yards against Minnesota after Devin Singletary wasn't able to find success. Now you're talking about a running back at the cheapest we've seen that's been playable in cash, right? You could go and throw a random name. Like, I could throw in Jerry Benson at 4,900 and he has a good game. And yeah, but for cash purposes, right, it's still not, you're playing against a very, not very good, but a good Minnesota defense. Cam Akers, if both Pierce and Mixon are out, which both of them have not practiced, it looks likely that we get 4,700 Cam Akers, who against the Bears was 7 for 32, gets a 3-yard reception, does fumble, but 3.5 points at 4,100. Now he's at 4,700, so definitely worth watching in the injury news for that one as well. So hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you guys are looking for the quarterbacks for week 3, or you're looking for the Thursday night showdown, both those videos are posted and out, available for you guys. The wide receiver and tight end videos will be going out in the next 2 days, and then Sunday we will have the roster construction kind of cash plays to play overall, just a recap with injuries and whatnot going on Sunday. So tune into that live stream, and I will see you guys in the next one.